Have you ever finally reached something you worked toward for years, only to feel strangely empty once you got there? You thought the achievement would change everything, that it would flip some invisible switch inside you. For a moment, it does. There is excitement, relief, even pride. But then that feeling fades faster than you expected. The silence after success feels louder than the struggle before it. You start wondering what went wrong, or worse, what is wrong with you. This moment is more common than we admit. It is the quiet beginning of the happiness paradox. We grow up believing happiness is a destination. That once we arrive at the right job, the right relationship, or the right lifestyle, everything will finally settle. Our culture reinforces this idea constantly, rewarding progress, milestones, and visible wins. Yet many people reach those milestones and feel no lasting change inside. The joy feels temporary, almost borrowed. Life improves on paper, but emotionally, something stays the same. This disconnect creates confusion and self-doubt. People rarely talk about it because it feels ungrateful. But it is not ingratitude, it is neuroscience. Psychology has a term for this experience, and it explains far more than most people realize. The brain operates with something called a happiness set point. This is a baseline level of emotional well-being that we tend to return to over time. Big positive events push us above it briefly. Big negative events pull us below it briefly. But eventually, the brain recalibrates and pulls us back toward the center. It is not cruelty, it is regulation. The brain likes balance more than bliss. This process is known as hedonic adaptation. When something good happens, your brain releases dopamine and other feel-good chemicals. These chemicals motivate you to pursue beneficial things. But the brain does not want you to stay satisfied for long. Satisfaction stops movement, so the chemical response fades, even if the good thing remains. The new job becomes normal. The new relationship becomes familiar. The new lifestyle becomes routine. What once felt special becomes the background. This is why external improvements alone rarely produce lasting happiness. The brain treats novelty as the reward, not the condition itself. Once novelty disappears, so does most of the emotional impact. That does not mean the improvement was meaningless. It means the brain has already absorbed it into your normal reality. Your life can objectively improve while your emotional experience returns to its old pattern. This can feel deeply discouraging if you do not understand what is happening. Many people interpret it as personal failure. In truth, it is biological consistency. Research also suggests that a large portion of long-term happiness is influenced by factors outside conscious control. Genetics, temperament, and early life experiences shape how reactive or resilient we are emotionally. This does not mean change is impossible. It means the range within which happiness fluctuates is narrower than we expect. We chase massive external changes, hoping for massive internal shifts. The brain responds with small, temporary adjustments instead. This mismatch fuels frustration. We keep running faster on the treadmill, but the scenery barely changes. There is another layer that makes this even harder. The brain is not neutral when processing experiences. It is biased toward negativity. Negative events leave a stronger imprint than positive ones. A single criticism can outweigh 10 compliments. One mistake can erase the memory of many successes. This bias evolved for survival. Missing a threat could be fatal, while missing a reward usually was not. So the brain learned to prioritize danger, loss, and error above pleasure. Even when life improves, this bias does not shut off. Your environment may be safer, more comfortable, more abundant, yet your brain continues scanning for what could go wrong. It notices what is missing faster than what is present. It questions stability instead of trusting it. This is why anxiety can increase even during periods of success. The brain interprets comfort as something that could be lost, so it stays alert. Happiness feels fragile because, to the brain, it always is. Modern life intensifies this effect. We are constantly exposed to information, comparison, and imagined futures. The brain does not evaluate happiness based on absolute conditions. It evaluates it relative to expectations and comparisons. This creates an illusion where improvement never feels sufficient. There is always someone doing better, somewhere doing more, achieving faster. Even imagined alternatives can reduce satisfaction. The brain asks not whether life is good, but whether it could be better. This is known as the focusing illusion. We overestimate how much a single change will improve our overall happiness. We fixate on one variable and assume it will transform everything else. When it does not, disappointment follows. The brain then selects a new target: more money, more freedom, more recognition. The cycle repeats. The problem is not the goals themselves. The problem is believing they will permanently resolve an internal state that is designed to fluctuate. Social media magnifies this distortion. We are exposed to curated moments of success, beauty, and joy. Presented without context, the brain compares your full life, including doubts and downtime, to someone else's highlights. It interprets this as a threat to status or belonging. This activates the same survival circuits as real danger. Even if your life is improving, comparison can make it feel insufficient. The brain does not care that the comparison is unrealistic, it only reacts. To understand why happiness is so elusive, we have to go deeper into evolution. The human brain did not evolve to make us happy, it evolved to keep us alive and reproducing. Pleasure is a tool, not a goal. Dopamine rewards behaviors that increase survival odds, but once the behavior is completed, if satisfaction lasted forever, motivation would collapse. Our ancestors needed to keep searching, building, and adapting. In the modern world, those same mechanisms drive us to chase success, validation, and status. The environment changed faster than the brain. We no longer struggle daily for food or safety, but the brain still runs survival algorithms. It replaces physical threats with psychological ones. Reputation, achievement, and comparison become proxies for survival. The system keeps pushing forward even when basic needs are met. This creates restlessness and abundance. This is why permanent happiness feels unreachable. The brain is designed for pursuit, not arrival. When you reach a goal, the system immediately looks for the next one. This is not because you are ungrateful or broken. It is because the brain is functioning exactly as it was designed to. Understanding this reframes the problem. The issue is not that happiness fades. The issue is expecting it to behave in a way it never evolved to. Ancient philosophies recognized this long before neuroscience did. Stoic thinkers observed that external events rarely determine inner peace. They noticed that people with little could be content, while people with much could be miserable. They concluded that interpretation mattered more than circumstance. What happens is less important than how the mind responds to it. At the time, this sounded philosophical. Today, it sounds neurological. Modern psychology supports this idea. Long-lasting well-being is more closely linked to meaning than to pleasure. Pleasure spikes quickly and fades quickly. Meaning develops slowly and endures longer. Relationships, contribution, growth, and purpose create a different kind of satisfaction. It is quieter, less intense, but more stable. It does not depend as heavily on novelty. It integrates into identity rather than stimulation. Gratitude plays a key role in this process. Actively noticing what is present slows hedonic adaptation. It reminds the brain that the current state has value. This does not stop adaptation entirely, but it softens its speed. Awareness changes perception. When you consciously reflect on positive changes, they retain emotional weight longer. Without awareness, the brain normalizes them automatically. Gratitude is not denial of problems. It is resistance to automatic numbness. Accepting impermanence is another powerful shift. The brain suffers most when it expects permanence in a world defined by change. When you expect happiness to stay forever, its fading feels like loss. When you expect it to pass, its presence feels precious. This perspective reduces anxiety and increases appreciation. It aligns expectations with reality. Instead of chasing constant joy, you learn to notice transient moments of contentment. At this point, it becomes personal. Think about something you worked hard for, something you believed would finally make you feel complete. Remember the anticipation. Remember the moment you achieved it. Now remember how quickly it became normal. That experience was not a failure of gratitude or ambition. It was your brain updating its baseline. It adjusted so you could continue functioning, striving, and adapting. Many people feel shame about this. They think they should feel happier. They think something is wrong with them for wanting more. But wanting more is built into the system. The brain always wants the next improvement. Understanding this removes self-blame. It replaces confusion with clarity. You are not ungrateful. You are human. This understanding also gives you power. When you stop expecting external conditions to permanently fix internal states, you stop chasing illusions. You can still pursue goals, but with different expectations. Achievements become expressions of growth rather than solutions to emptiness. Happiness becomes something you practice, not something you unlock. This shift reduces disappointment and increases presence. Life improvement still matters. Better conditions reduce stress, expand opportunity, and create safety. But they are foundations, not final answers. On top of that foundation, meaning must be built intentionally. Purpose, connection, and self-understanding are not automatic. They require reflection and choice. The brain will not do this work for you by default. It will always push toward the next reward instead. The paradox is this: you can improve your life endlessly and still feel unsatisfied. Or you can understand the brain's design and work with it. When you stop demanding constant happiness, moments of peace become easier to notice. When you stop chasing permanence, presence deepens. Happiness stops being a destination and becomes a relationship with experience. If you are feeling stuck despite progress, you are not behind. If you feel empty after success, you are not ungrateful. Your brain is simply doing what it evolved to do. The difference now is awareness. Awareness creates choice, and choice creates a different way of living. Happiness is not something the brain delivers on command. It is something that emerges when expectations, meaning, and biology are aligned. You cannot force it to stay, but you can stop fighting its nature. And in doing so, you may find something quieter, deeper, and more sustainable than happiness itself.